I was half asleep on the couch, the glow of the TV long gone, leftover takeout still sitting open like a forgotten promise. Midnight pressed heavy against the windows of my small apartment when a soft, urgent knock cut through the quiet. Not loud, but enough to pull me upright, heart already stuttering for no reason I could name. I opened the door and there she stood. My new female tenant from upstairs, nothing but an oversized t-shirt that skimmed her thighs and tiny shorts, hair all messy from sleep or panic, eyes wide with that raw embarrassment that made something inside me twist. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, voice trembling just a little. "Kitchen sink pipe just burst. Water is everywhere. Could you please come help? I don't know who else to call at this hour." That single awkward moment in the doorway cracked my lonely routine wide open. Just her standing there, close enough I caught the faint vanilla warmth drifting off her skin, and suddenly the silence of my nights felt heavier than before. I nodded before my brain caught up, mumbling something about grabbing my toolbox. She was just a tenant, this was nothing. But the way her fingers brushed the doorframe as she stepped back, it planted the first dangerous spark. I followed her upstairs, toolbox heavy in my hand, the hallway light flickering like it knew something I didn't. The moment I stepped into her apartment, the sharp smell of leaking water hit me, mixing with that sweet vanilla lotion that seemed to cling to the air around her. She hovered close while I crawled under the sink, my shirt riding up against the cool tiles. Her bare thigh brushed my arm. Accidental, I told myself. Just her handing me a wrench, breath catching every time water dripped onto my skin. Inside my head, the voice kept repeating, "She's just a tenant. Don't stare. You're only helping because it's late and she's alone up here." But the warmth of that brief touch lingered on my arm like a secret I couldn't shake. For the first time in months, my empty apartment downstairs didn't feel like enough. It felt too quiet, too still, too much like the ache I'd been ignoring. With the pipe finally clamped tight enough to stop the worst of the flood, we sat right there on her kitchen floor, surrounded by soaked towels that smelled of wet cotton and something sweeter underneath. She insisted on handing me a cold beer from her fridge, her fingers grazing mine as she passed the can. A soft derby song played low from her phone, that slow bass vibrating through the tiles into my bones. She laughed nervously about the mess, a little breathless sound that made her knee rest against mine. Warm, steady, impossible to ignore. "This is innocent," my mind whispered even as my pulse quickened. Just being neighborly, but why does her laugh make the loneliness feel so much heavier? Her eyes met mine for a second longer than they should have, the dim kitchen light catching the flush on her cheeks. I could feel the heat rolling off her skin, that vanilla scent wrapping around us both like it was pulling us closer without either of us moving. She shifted slightly, her shoulder brushing my arm again, and I forgot how to breathe for a moment. The almost touch hung there between us, heavy, electric, forbidden. She was my tenant. I was supposed to keep things professional. Yet sitting there on the wet floor with her knee pressed lightly to mine, the quiet confession of her laugh still echoing, something inside me cracked open just a little wider. Lips parting like she was about to say something that might change everything. Over the next few evenings my phone would buzz just as I was settling in, her name lighting up the screen with some small request. A light bulb flickering like it couldn't decide whether to stay or go. Each time I climbed those stairs, telling myself it was only part of being a decent landlord, the minutes stretched longer than they should have. One night I was reaching high above her fridge for the socket, my chest brushing lightly against the thin cotton of her tank top from behind. The fabric felt so soft it might as well have been nothing, and for one heartbeat my body pressed closer than planned. Heat from her back seeped through, warm and alive. I stepped back fast, toolbox rattling, the words already forming in my throat. "Stop it, she's renting from you. This could ruin everything." Yet later, alone in my own bed, that brief contact replayed behind my closed eyes, making the sheets feel too heavy, too empty. She started texting more often after that. Nothing big, just enough to pull me up there again and again. Each visit left me carrying the ghost of her nearness downstairs, like smoke that wouldn't clear. Then came the night we ended up sharing leftover pizza on her couch because the delivery guy mixed up the address and neither of us wanted to eat alone. She picked at the crust, voice cracking just a little as she told me she'd just gotten out of a bad relationship, the kind that leaves you questioning every quiet moment. Her eyes glistened under the low lamp, and that familiar vanilla scent drifting from her skin hit me like a memory of my own past breakup. The same hollow ache. The same wondering if anyone would ever stay. In my head, the war started all over again. She's lonely too, but that doesn't make this okay. You're her landlord. Still, something shifted in the space between us. She wasn't just the girl upstairs anymore. She was becoming someone I wanted to shield from the world, even as the pull to draw her closer grew stronger, more dangerous. We fell into a quiet pattern after those small fixes. Late-night meals that felt almost like ritual. The melody curled through the air like a secret we weren't supposed to share. I reached for the same glass of wine at the same moment she did. Our fingers brushed, skin against skin, and electricity shot straight up my arm, sharp and undeniable. I pulled back, but not before noticing how her lips parted slightly when she tasted the sauce, slow and thoughtful. The sight lodged somewhere deep, making it hard to swallow my next bite. It's just dinner, I told myself. Friends do this, but friends don't fixate on the way her shoulder moves when she laughs softly at something on the radio. Friends don't imagine the warmth of her breath against their neck in the middle of the night. The internal tug-of-war raged on. This is innocent, this has to stay innocent. Yet every shared glance felt like stepping closer to an edge I wasn't sure I could step back from. She glanced up then, catching me watching her, her vanilla scent mixed with the herbs and wine, creating something sweet and heady that made my pulse stumble. I wanted to reach across the table, wanted to stop myself even more. The almost moment stretched, trembling on the brink. Her hand hovered near mine on the wooden surface, inches away, not quite touching. I could feel the pull, gravity drawing us, and despite every reason screaming to pull away, she was healing. I was supposed to be the steady one, but in that small kitchen with the soul song fading into another slow verse, the line between helping and wanting blurred until I couldn't tell where one ended and the other began. And just as her fingers seemed about to close the last impossible gap, she whispered my name like a question that could unravel us both. I woke to another late-night knock, my heart already racing before I even opened the door. She stood there in that thin silk slip, eyes wide with worry, saying the pipe under her sink was leaking again, and she couldn't stop thinking about the water ruining everything she'd just unpacked. Telling myself this was just another fix, nothing more, but my pulse betrayed me the whole way up the stairs. We ended up in her bedroom, moving that heavy dresser to reach behind it. The wood groaned as we pushed together, our bodies close in the dim light. Her loose robe caught on the edge and slipped open for one fleeting second, the soft curve of her breast visible before she gasped and clutched the fabric shut. Cheeks burning crimson, she whispered sorry, turning away, but that single glimpse seared into my mind like a brand I couldn't erase. We sat on the edge of her bed afterward, catching our breath, shoulders brushing with every inhale. The mattress dipped under our weight, pulling us a fraction nearer. This is crossing the line, I thought. One more second and I won't be able to stop myself. Skin prick led where we touched, heat radiating through the thin layers between us. She smelled like warm vanilla and fresh soap, and I fought the urge to lean in, to let the gravity win. Guilt twisted sharp in my chest. She's my tenant. This isn't right. Yet the ache only deepened with every shared heartbeat. After that, her texts started coming more frequently, little messages during my workday that made me check my phone obsessively. Even in meetings, the feel of her soft bed sheets lingered on my clothes like a secret I carried downstairs each time. In the mirror, I stared at my reflection and rationalized it all. She's an adult, reaching out at midnight because she's scared and alone, just like me. It's mutual loneliness, not some betrayal. But the words felt hollow against the growing hunger, the way her nearness haunted my quiet moments, making me wonder if something this consuming could ever fit without tearing us both apart. The obsession settled in deeper, quiet and relentless. I'd find myself replaying the brush of her shoulder, the way her breath had quickened when the robe slipped. Mixing with the memory of her bed sheet's texture, soft and inviting in ways I shouldn't dwell on. I told myself it was harmless help, nothing forbidden. But the moral friction gnawed harder each night, leaving me restless and staring at the ceiling, caught between stopping this and needing more of her quiet presence. That familiar knock pulling me from half-sleep. She was back in the silk slip, voice trembling as she said the pipe was leaking worse this time, water already pooling, and she was terrified of the damage spreading. I followed her up, heart hammering against my ribs like a warning I chose to ignore. Under the sink the space was tight, tools clinking softly as I worked. She knelt beside me to hold the flashlight, her thigh pressing firm and warm against my side, the heat unmistakable through the thin fabric. My mind screamed, "Turn back now. This is your tenant, remember the boundaries." Yet when she leaned closer to see, her breath ghosted warm across my neck, and everything narrowed to that point of contact. The vanilla scent wrapped around me heavier now, sweet and dizzying in the cramped dark. I told myself to focus on the pipes, on the steady drip of water, but my hand brushed her leg as I reached for a wrench, lingering there far longer than necessary, fingers tracing the warmth without permission. "Thank you," she whispered then, so close her words brushed my ear like a confession. "I feel safe with you." The words sank deep, cracking something open inside me. My breath caught, the internal war raging louder. "Stop this, pull away, she's depending on you to be the steady one." But the pull was stronger, fighting the surrender creeping in, wondering how much longer I could pretend this was only about fixing what was broken. I crouched lower under the sink, the dim bulb casting long shadows across the wet tiles. Our eyes locked in that cramped space, inches apart, the faint melody from her room drifting down the hallway. That same slow R&B song from our very first midnight. Her breath hitched softly as my fingers grazed the edge of her slip, the fabric whispering against skin warmer than the leaking water pooling around us. Pulling me under like a tide, I had no strength left to fight. God, this need between us. It felt impossibly big, this risk swallowing the last of my restraint. Could something this consuming even fit without shattering the fragile walls we built? My hand trembled where it rested near her thigh, not quite touching, yet close enough that the heat blurred every line. She didn't pull away. Instead, her lips parted on a silent exhale, eyes dark with the same storm raging in me. I drew her closer without deciding to, body shifting in the tight space until nothing separated the ache except a breath we both held. The kiss came like surrender, soft at first, then deeper, walls crumbling in the space of one heartbeat. Her fingers curled into my shirt, mine tracing the curve of her waist through silk that felt thinner than air. Everything narrowed to warmth and vanilla, and the way her trembling matched mine. Forbidden, dangerous, yet impossible to deny any longer. We sank together onto the cool, damp floor, bodies pressing in a tangle of limbs and unspoken hunger, the leak above us dripping steadily like a countdown. Then her phone shattered the silence, screen flashing bright against the dark. His name glowed there. She froze beneath me, eyes widening with panic that cut straight through the haze. Desire still burned in her gaze, but fear crashed in harder, turning the air thick and cold. I pulled back sharply, chest heaving, the weight of what we'd almost done slamming into me like ice water. Her past, that triangular shadow, loomed suddenly between us, making every touch feel far more treacherous than before. We stared at each other on the wet kitchen floor, water still trickling from the pipe in slow, mocking drops. The R&B song played on, now sounding hollow and accusing in the background. Her hand remained pressed to my chest, mine resting heavy on her thigh, neither of us moving, neither speaking the question that hung raw in the charged silence. How had loneliness led us here, to this edge where landlord and tenant blurred into something neither of us could name? The drip continued, relentless. Everything else felt broken too. The careful distance, the pretense of innocence, the safety of separate lives. I wanted to reach for her again, to chase that vanishing heat, but the flash of his name lingered like a warning. She bit her lip, breath still unsteady, eyes searching mine for answers I didn't have. In that suspended moment, the ache deepened into something sharper, laced with regret and an unrelenting pull that refused to fade. Nothing would ever be simple between us again. And so did the quiet longing that had cracked us both open, leaving us suspended in the ruins of what almost was, wondering if we'd ever find a way to fix any of it without losing ourselves completely.